Hey, Reveling fans, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with all the tools you need in one place. Totally free. Just go to anchor.fm on your computer and start creating that podcast you've been meaning to start. Take advantage of Anchor's creation tools where you can record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you on many different listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast, to name a few. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And the best part about it, Anchor is absolutely totally free. Download the Anchor app on your phone or go to anchor.fm to get started right away. Have fun!
You're listening to Mama Murdered a Podcast. I'm your host, AB. Mama Murdered a Podcast is a podcast where me, the mama, will be killing it on the podcast. We'll be taking a deep dive into things that are hard to talk about and even harder to believe that these things actually happen in the world that we live in. This entire podcast will be a trigger warning. I'll be talking about triggering topics while I dive headfirst into a lot of the cases that I'll be covering. New episodes will be released every week on Wednesdays because nobody likes Mondays and because Fridays are for day drinking and barbecues. Some of the case topics will be murder, of course, serial killers, like Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, missing persons cases, like 5-year-old Summer Wells, who vanished from her own yard in broad daylight in the middle of June in Tennessee in 2021. And especially the ones where it kind of seems like they just vanished into thin air, like Brian Schaefer. He walked into a bar, but he never walked out. He's still never been seen again. I'll also be covering cold cases and lesser-known cases. Join me every Wednesday to talk about all things tragic, murder, and things that happen in the downright ugliest sides of society. If you like what you hear and you want to support the podcast, you can rate me on Spotify. You can also leave a review and rating on Apple Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at murdered_mama. All of these things are free and they only take about a second to do, and it really does help grow the podcast. If you have any case suggestions, please send them my way. You can send them to the email address mamamurderedapodcast@gmail.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
1996. Let's see. What do you remember about 1996? I turned 15 years old. I was a freshman, going on sophomore. I was thinking about girls, talking to girls, trying to get girls' phone numbers, and wanting to talk to them, of course. I was hanging out with friends late at night until the streetlights came on. Yes, I'm going there. I lived that era. I can talk freely about that era. I used to go to the park, stay there, hang out at the playground, just by myself. Just be in the moment. Lived that moment. Let's see. I made a lot of friends that year in high school and out of high school. Friends that to this day I still talk to and keep in touch with. Let's see. What else happened that year? Newsworthy wise? Okay. April 3rd, the FBI arrest Theodore Kaczynski, otherwise known as the Unabomber. Let's see. Everybody Loves Raymond, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Kenan and Kel, Blue's Clues, Moesha, Judge Judy, and a few more other shows premiere that year. On July 19th, the Summer Olympics are held in Atlanta. We say goodbye to California Dreams. Love that show. Captain Planet, Dial MTV. We have The Box. If you don't know what The Box is, you're too young. If you do know what The Box means, to some of us in the West Coast, we are right here. Who else? Tales from the Crypt and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. 1996? The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Wow. Totally forgot all about that. What else? What I Got by Sublime comes out. Unfortunately, we also lose the lead singer, Bradley Newell, due to an overdose while still on tour. The song was released on the self-titled album 2 months later. June 25th, We Can't Knock the Hustle, when we were introduced for the very first time to Jay-Z and Reasonable Doubt. September 13th, oh man, the hip hop world suffers a major loss when it's revealed that hip hop and rock and roll Hall of Famer, icon, legend, Tupac died of a gunshot wound suffered 7 days earlier. But we are introduced to From Dusk Till Dawn. We get another Crow movie. Don't Be a Mess at South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood has us all wanting more Wayans. We Believe We Can Fly when Space Jam came out. We ask everyone in a creepy voice what their favorite scary movie is. All because Scream franchise was introduced to us on that year, 1996. September 29th, the N64 is released in North America. The Nintendo 64. I had those. I had one. I had a Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Man, I couldn't picture this. Shout out to Big. In the comic book world, however, Batman The Long Halloween comes out in October, which 2022 becomes the inspiration to the 3 hour epic that was The Batman. Right? Right. And then we sing at the top of our lungs. No, we belt it out. We sing from the heart. Celine Dion. It's all coming back to us now. 2022 becomes a trend on TikTok earlier in the year. We tell our significant other that nobody can love us quite like they can. We wish we could unbreak Toni Braxton's heart because of one music video. And of course, we yell out, "No diggity," when someone yells, "I like the way you work it." And 1996, the Macarena becomes the number one song on Billboard year-end Hot 100 singles. No, I'm not going to play it. No, no, not here. No. Of course, all this I had to look up, obviously. But this is what this show is about. If you asked me about wrestling in '96, I can tell you at the top of my head. WrestleMania 12 had an Iron Man match. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash leave. They invade WCW. We think it's an invasion. The end result is the NWO. And it's WCW thing. Paul Bearer betrays The Undertaker at SummerSlam, and the young Dwayne Johnson debuts at that year's Survivor Series. What else? What else? Can't think of anything. Oh, and Sable. Yeah. The world is introduced to Sable.
1, 2, 3, 4, get your woman on the floor. Gonna get up and get down. Gonna get up and get down.
What up, everybody? So glad you're here. Coolio with the flow back in your ear. This ain't a fantastic voice, but I'm still on the mission to see if I can get your attention. Now, I want to drop some information, just a little additive to your education. I live my life by the code of the funk 600 watt F18s in the trunk. When I'm on the street, you gotta feel my beat, so throw your hands up if you're down with the seat. Double O-L-I-O with the flow. I'm looking for the party, so better know. 1, 2, 3, it's like ABC of hip-hop. Didn't pay, I rap for free. Slide, but that's the path. I got something brand new for today.
1, 2, 3, 4, get your woman on the floor. Gonna get up and get down. Gonna get up and get down. 1, 2, 3, 4, get your woman on the floor. Gonna get up and get down. Gonna get up and get down.
That was 1, 2, 3, 4, Something New by Coolio. Also released that year. This year, however, rest in peace, Coolio. We lost him just a few weeks back. Welcome back, Wrestling Geeks. I am your host, Ernie, and this is episode 70 of From Under the Apron. Okay, look, the reason I brought up 1996 was because I was requested to review In Your House Best Friends, Better Enemies from 1996, and I was thinking, what else happened in 96? Not 97 was Montreal year. 96, that year, not only rest on one Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, but it was the year that Roddy Piper, Jake the Snake Roberts, and the Ultimate Warrior come back. We get the debut of one Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, Mark Henry, and The Rock. Kurt Angle wins an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Oh, it's true. He'll tell you. He'll remind you. I discovered ECW and Raven becomes my favorite wrestler. Brian Pillman sets the wrestling world on fire. He convinces Bischoff to fire him for shooting during a match with Kevin Sullivan. I respect you, Booker Man. Yeah, that one. And allowed him to go to work for a few months in ECW. Bischoff agreed that if it helped that angle, he would happy to go along with it. A few months later, he accepted a deal with the WWE. Oh, Bischoff. Pillman bamboozle you, brother. Oh, yeah. An electrical storm knocks out power and everyone in the arena, and at home watches the whole pay per view in the dark. Well, not the whole pay per view, just a few matches. It wasn't that big of a deal. You'll get over it, they said. Okay, well, what else happened that year? Um, the obvious problematic stable known as the New World Order, the NWO, the Cruiserweight division, as I was told. Hulk Hogan takes home the prize of being Pro Wrestling Illustrated's most hated wrestler of the year. The Giant secures Rookie and Wrestler of the Year, and Vince McMahon vs. Eric Bischoff gets Feud and the Year due to their battles on cable network ratings. By the end of the year, WCW looks like the old 80s generation of the WWF, while the WWF transitioned from the new generation to a burst of attitude. If this is your first time stumbling upon the show, what I do when a show is requested, I watch the show, I look up the duration of the match, the venue, the date, and the participation of said show. After every match, I tell you what was done afterwards, or if it's a big show like WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble, I tell you how the year went on for them. At the end of the show that I'm reviewing, usually what myself and my co-host Michael would do is rate the show by how we used to do back in the 90s, and that is record every premium live event and then decide if it was worth taking it to school, high school, middle school, whatever kind of school. We would take it to school with us to let our friends watch, which, if it was a banger, we wouldn't get the tape back until the following week because it's still being passed around. Tape distribution. The pastime of us 90s kids that I still need to cover on a segment. When will I do that segment? I have no idea, but we're going to talk about it. If the show is bad, don't take it to school. Just tell our friends about it, or tell our friends to watch Raw for the recap. Usually, it's what happened during In Your House pay-per-views. We wouldn't get banger matches or big matches until Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, or the Survivor Series. In Your House, Best Friends, Better Enemies aired on April 28, 1996 at the Omaha Civic Auditorium in Omaha, Nebraska. The show was a birthday gift. My mom said, okay, and she let me watch it. The pay-per-view would have been awful, and I still would have bought them. Doesn't matter. I was a kid. I loved watching wrestling. There were 4 dark matches, 1 before the pay-per-view first aired, and 3 more after the pay-per-view went off the air. So the fans in the arena saw 9 matches, but we saw 5. The first dark match aired on the free-for-all. It aired on the pay-per-view, but it was free to watch. At the time, every pay-per-view would have a free 30-minute viewing before the show, kind of like a teaser, kind of like a countdown. Look, this is what you're missing out on if you don't order this. And that would be the free-for-all. Even movies, it'd be like, look, order this movie, it's fun, it's awesome. And then, like, trailers for other shows, for other movies and all that stuff. And then the pay per view, whatever channel it was, go off the air. If you're asking, yes, it did also work for Korn. Anyway, so first match of the night. Mark Merrill defeated via DQ the 1-2-3 Kid at 7 minutes and 17 seconds. Triple H, then known as Hunter Hemsley, attacked Mark Merrill, still sour from what happened to him at WrestleMania when his valet at the time Sable bailed on him for Mark Merrill. Triple H and love triangles, huh? You get it. We get it. You see both Mark Merrill with Sable and 123 Kid later in the back doing promotion for the WWF Superstar line. I never called a Superstar line. You had to pay. I'm not paying to talk to a wrestler for 5 minutes. I'll pay to meet them face to face, but I'm not paying to talk to them. What was it? 199 a minute, and then after 5 minutes, and then your parents get the bill and they start arguing about you. Yeah, sure, why not? I'd rather pay. How much did I have? I paid like $30 to meet them, have a conversation with them, have them sign autographs. I've done that before. Done that with actual wrestlers. Um, Virgil gave me the $1 Million Dream sleeper hold once. It was a rough time. Oh, okay. Let's start with Mark Merrill. The kid, real name Sean Waltman and Hunter, I'm going to say for later. Later. Not right now. For now, let's start with Merrill and what he brought to the table. Obviously, his wife, Sable, at the time, you hate it, I understand. But, it happened. Rumor is that the only reason the former Johnny B. Bad from WCW was signed was because his wife came with him to that signing, and Vince McMahon was so smitten with Sable that he told Merrill that Sable needed to be with him as a package deal. Oh boy. Even back, what is this, 1986? Even back then, he was both of them are signed, and both of them debut at WrestleMania 12. Sable as the belly of Hunter, who bails on him when he gets defeated by the Ultimate Warrior in minutes. They're seen backstage. He is arguing with Sable, and Mark Merrill swings in to make the save. The Wildman, Mark Merrill saved his wife from the future of the business. It happens. The next night on Monday Night Raw, the Wildman debuts in his first match against the future mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Glenn Jacobs, in a ugly dentist gimmick. Yeah, yeah, it was one of those. He doesn't become Kane until 1987, until deep in the heart of the Attitude Era. Mero defeats Isaac Yankem DDS, of course. Sable overshadowing. Sorry, Sable as his ballet slash manager at his side. The following month, he defeats Hunter at In Your House. Beware of Dog. Yeah, that pay per view. The unwatchable pay per view. The one where it got dark. He qualifies for King of the Ring but doesn't win it. Instead, he has an asterisk in the highlight of the years. King of the Ring. Um, More on that later. Mero doesn't get any gold until September when he participated in a tournament for the vacated Intercontinental Championship. He defeated Owen Hart, Farouk, and Steve Austin on September 23rd. At Survivor Series, he was eliminated by Crush, but his team consisting of Jake Roberts, the Stalker, which ended up being Barry Windham, and the debut of Rocky Maivia won. In February of 97, he tore his ACL and had to spend 6 months rehabilitating it at home. Okay, let's get to the actual pay-per-view. Owen Hart and British Bulldog defeated Jake the Snake Roberts and Ahmed Johnson at 13 minutes and 47 seconds. The first match to air live on pay-per-view was scheduled to be a singles match between the Bulldog and Jake Roberts. Bulldog was accompanied by Owen Hart, Jim Cornette, and Cornette's storyline attorney, Clarence Mason. Clarence Mason was a play on words, a stage name which was a combination of two people, two lawyers, two actual lawyers, Clarence Darrow and Perry Mason, primarily introduced to play off the publicity lawyers had gotten during the ongoing O.J. Simpson trial. His character and speaking style were based on Johnny Cochran. Basically, he would be the wise man version of, was it Paul Heyman? Yeah, sure, why not? While Roberts entered the ring with his pet python, Revelations, it had been revealed that the previous weekend, Bulldog was extremely afraid of snakes, and because of this, Mason presented the referee with a document ordering the snake to be placed backstage. Roberts looks at the piece of paper, tears it off to shreds, took the snake out of his bag, and charged at Mason and Cornette, including the referee. Roberts took the snake to the locker room, and while Cornette looked like he passed out. When Roberts came back out again, he came out with a tag team partner, Ahmed Johnson. Um, so now the match becomes Bulldog and Hart against Roberts and Johnson. Jake and Ahmed controlled much of the match until the Bulldog and Hart gained the upper hand when Bulldog distracted the referee, allowing Hart to choke Roberts. Bulldog and Hart took turns wearing down Roberts until he countered a sleeper hold by Owen and tagged Ahmed. Yeah. Ahmed came in strong and soon tagged Roberts back in. Shortly afterwards, all four wrestlers were scattered around the ring area. The referee focused on Hart fighting with Johnson outside the ring, while Bulldog struck Roberts multiple times in the knee with Cornette's tennis racket. Bulldog then grabbed Roberts' leg and applied pressure to the knee, forcing Roberts to submit. Not a bad match to start the show. I'm a big fan of Owen Hart, and really he can't do any harm here with his partner, Bulldog. As massive as Ahmed Johnson was, I don't know why they didn't push him farther than just the IC Championship. The guy lifted and power slammed Yokozuna when he was at 660 pounds. Lex Luger did it when he was at 500 pounds. And look what he got out of it. So him losing this match or any of his big matches was kind of weird. Vince, this is what you like in people. Big, muscular men, but you let Ahmed Johnson be so much of, a jobber. He had potential, but, they made him into a jobber. He also had internal problems. Um, Jake Roberts can still go, but at this point, I was more of a fan of his old stuff than before he left at WrestleMania 8. Ahmed Johnson was a mess in '96. Yeah, sure, he won the Intercontinental Championship from Goldust at King of the Ring and became the first African American Intercontinental Champion. On the July 22 edition of Raw, Michaels and Johnson teamed again and challenged the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart, for the Tag Team Championship. During the match, Farouk Assad debuted and attacked Johnson. This was supposed to lead to a match at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental title. On August 5th edition of Raw, Johnson won an 11-man Battle Royal, last eliminating the man whom he beat for the Intercontinental title, Goldust, to be the number one contender for the WWF Championship for the day after SummerSlam. However, Johnson was diagnosed with legit kidney problems and was forced to miss both SummerSlam and his scheduled WWF Championship match the following night. He was out of it for 4 months, and in order to keep the angle going, the attack by Farouk was said to be the cause of the kidney damage. The news was made public on WWF programming by incorporating it into the 11-man Battle Royal, which Johnson won. Voiceover commentary was added so that Johnson's participation in the Battle Royal was said to be against doctor's orders, when in reality his kidney problem had yet to be discovered at the time of taping. The injury forced him to vacate the Intercontinental Championship, which was subsequently won in a tournament by Mark Mero. Just told you all that. Johnson didn't come back until November of '96 to continue his feud with Farouk and ended at the Royal Rumble in 1997. Jake the Snake Roberts was supposed to have an inspirational comeback. He became a born-again Christian and had been preaching around the country. He came back to the WWF at the Royal Rumble as a Bible preacher. To go along with this gimmick, he named his albino Burmese python Revelations. He faced Stone Cold Steve Austin in the final match of the 1996 King of the Ring tournament. Changes had to be made to the match's scripting as legitimate injuries sustained earlier in the evening in a match with Vader. Of course, Vader loved punishing people left and right. He's the epitome of bullying someone until he gets his way. Which, you know, facing Bader, which left Roberts unable to engage in the longer, more evenly matched bout originally intended between him and Austin. To prevent Roberts from sustaining a further injury, he was quickly defeated by Austin in a post-match interview. The greatest freaking promo ever. Austin mocked his recital of the biblical passage John 3:16 by saying,
The fourth prestigious King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin, an incredible victory.
The first thing I want to be done is to get that piece of crap out of my ring. Don't just get him out of the ring, get him out of the WWF. Because I've proved, son, without a shadow of a doubt, you ain't got what it takes anymore. You sit there and you thump your Bible and you say your prayers, and it didn't get you anywhere. Talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass.
Come on, that's not necessary.
All he's got to do is go buy him a cheap bottle of Thunderbird and try to dig back some of that courage he had in his prime. As the King of the Ring, I'm serving notice to every one of the WWF superstars. I don't give a damn what they are. They're all on the list, and that's Stone Cold's list, and I'm fixing to start running through all of them. As far as this championship match is considered, son, I don't give a damn if it's Davey Boy Smith or Shawn Michaels. Steve Austin's time has come. And when I get the shot, you're looking at the next WWF champion, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Obviously anything but humble. The fourth prestigious King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
the catchphrase helped propel Austin to the top of the WWF, and is one of the moments that is often cited as the beginning of the Attitude Era. Robert's next feud with Jerry the King Lawler, who went to great lengths to ridicule Roberts' past alcoholism. This past September, Jake Roberts talked about his whole angle on his podcast during a Q&A episode of the DDP Snake Pit. On the storyline being in bad taste, he says, absolutely was in horrible taste. They made fun of me for being an alcoholic. Lawler wound up pouring a bottle of whiskey down my face, burned the shit out of my eyes. On the whiskey bottle not being gimmicked or diluted, he says, ask Jerry. He'll tell you the same damn thing, because whenever it came time for me to pour it on him, he goes, you can't pour that on me. And I go, what do you mean? You poured it on me. And he says, well, Vince wanted it poured on you. That motherfucker, you know. On the locker room, making his struggles harder at the time, he says, I can't say boys will be boys because boys will be assholes. They were constantly putting things in my bag that shouldn't have been there, taking chances with my damn well-being because they were putting drugs in my damn suitcase that I didn't know were there, and I'd find shit in there, you know. Paraphernalia and stuff. It was just horrible, man. The British Bulldog and Owen Hart won the tag team titles from the Smoking Guns in September at In Your House, Mind Games. They would go on to hold those belts for 244 days until they lost them to the makeshift team of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels. At one point, both Owen and Bulldog held 4 belts. First, with Bulldog, who won the European Championship in February of '97. He defeated Owen Hart in the finals of that tournament. On April 28th edition of Monday Night Raw in '97, Owen Hart defeated Rocky Maivia for the Intercontinental Championship. Next, Goldust defended his WWF Intercontinental Championship against the Ultimate Warrior. They showed clips of the free-for-all when Ultimate Warrior was being interviewed in the back. Marlena, Goldust's wife, valet, director, whatever you want to call her at the time, she walks right in, blows her cigar smoke in his face, and throws gold glitter at him. Warrior doesn't do anything, he just stands there and hypes himself up. Was this even a match to begin with at all? It only lasted for about 7 minutes and 38 seconds. It began with Goldust being chased out of the ring by Warrior, where he stayed for the next several minutes while his valet, Marlena, and personal bodyguard, apparently, he had a personal bodyguard. Do you guys remember Mantar? Yeah, that's who this guy was. We talked briefly about him on this show as a throwaway joke when we did an episode of Young Rock. He shows up in the locker room in this era. The guy was wearing a Minotaur suit and was built as half man, half beast. Here he was wearing suspenders, almost as he was an extra in a mafia movie. Goldust mafia movie. He attempted to distract Warrior. Of course, Warrior took possession of Goldust's robe and Marlena's director's chair, which prompted the two to return to the ring and retrieve the items. Goldust puts on his robe, sits on the chair, and presented his hand for Warrior to kiss. Instead, Warrior took Marlena's lit cigar, burned Goldust's hand, and then clotheslined him out of the chair. Goldust ran from the ring and was counted out. This wasn't even a match at all. Why was it here? Why not any of the dark matches that were shown later? It didn't make sense. It was a waste of time. Goldust retains the title. This was a nephew from Vince to the Times. Warrior hijacked SummerSlam in '91. Uh, Goldust defeated Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental Championship at the Royal Rumble. Razor was supposed to have a rematch with Goldust at WrestleMania 12 in the Backlog Raw, but he failed a drug test and was suspended. More on Razor later. So then Goldust turns his attention to Roddy Piper, who came in as an interim. Oh man, there's that word again. He came in to do Gorilla Monsoon's job as president of the WWF. Goldust ambiguously flirted with Piper until he got that match at WrestleMania 12 against him. His whole gimmick was mostly flirting with his opponents. Vince would be on commentary and would utter the words bizarre every time Goldust was in the ring. He lost the IC Championship at King of the Ring against Ahmed Johnson, but he gained control of Mankind and feuded with The Undertaker. By the end of the year, he was turning face and would enter a feud with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who was flirting with Marlena. And there he is again. Triangle. It would get resolved, apparently. His real life girlfriend, China, would join him and they would feud with Goldust and Marlena. I wouldn't call her real life girlfriend. Would China be? Yeah. We're just going to call her his real life girlfriend at the time. I'm telling you. Triangles. The Ultimate Warrior. No, nothing worth noting here at all. He came and went that year. He arrived in April at WrestleMania 12, defeated Triple H in a minute 39. He showed up the next day on Raw to do an interview, which is most memorable for calling the fans his warriors. The following night after the pay-per-view, he defeated Isaac Yankem. His rematch against Goldust ended in a double countout. He defeated Jerry Lawler at King of the Ring, defeated Owen Hart via DQ in July. Was scheduled to team up with Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson to face Owen, Bulldog, and Vader, but Vince terminated his contract when he missed a few house shows to take time off to grieve the death of his father. Vince claimed that Warrior had not seen his father in 10 years and not cared for him, so he didn't believe his excuse. Warrior was there for 3 months and he didn't do shit. Why bring him in at all? Why? What the hell? That was a waste of time. After the match, the British Bulldog was shown backstage attempting to enter Shawn Michaels' locker room as officials Dave Hebner and Tony Guerrera were trying to hold him back. Doc Hendricks. I hate that name. I hate it. Doc Hendricks reported that Bulldog had said something about his wife, Diana. It's Michael Hayes. Why would you call him Doc? Why would you rename him? Also, another person that we spoke about briefly in a Young Rock episode that we did a few months back. Vader defeated Razor Ramon 14 minutes and 49 seconds. Vader controlled much of the match. What a letdown. Until Ramon attempted a Razor's Edge, but was countered with a backdrop. He attempted that Razor's Edge 3 times. Maybe twice. And 3 times from the top rope also. Vader then performed a seated senton in which he jumped and sat onto Ramon's chest and covered him for the pinfall. And what a waste. Following the match, Vader was informed that because of his victory, he would be allowed to wrestle Yokozuna, whose leg he had injured on Raw 3 weeks prior at the next month's In Your House pay per view. I don't know why he does this, but instead of getting mad at Michael Hayes, he pushes Cornette like it's his fault. Why push Jim Cornette at all? He's there to manage your career. He's there to manage you. Beat up Michael Hayes. I'm sorry, Michael Hayes, but beat him up. Why beat up Cornette? Um, Cornette grabs a mic and he says this: Yokozuna, you're stepping to the danger zone next. Razor Ramon, by the time we got finished with him, he looked like Margot Kidder. You're stepping into the Vader zone. Damn. Alright, so in April of '96, Margot Kidder, most notably famous for playing the role Lois Lane in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, was reported missing. 3 days later, she was found dirty, frightened, and paranoid in bushes behind the suburban home and was taken for psychiatric testing. Oh, and then he mentions that like it was nothing. Poor lady. This felt like a slow burn again with the Ahmed Johnson situation. A few weeks before this match, Vader had taken Yokozuna out of action by injuring his leg. So if he was able to manhandle your biggest monster and you're hyping this guy up as a mastodon, why is he having problems with a guy that isn't even resigning, that isn't even coming back? Why couldn't you just say squash him? If this was Razor's last pay-per-view appearance, then why not make it a squash match and get it over with? It felt way too long for a Vader match, and it felt way too long and slow for a Razor match. Um, we'll talk about Razor at the end of the show as well. He's part of that. I'm saving the best for last, trust me. Vader, Leon White, is a savage. He made his first appearance as the number 13 in the Royal Rumble match, as he entered at number 13 and eliminated Jake Roberts, Doug Gilbert, one member of the squad team, and Savio Vega. He also fought with his ally Yokozuna, but Vader was eliminated by Shawn Michaels before he re-entered the ring and started assaulting everyone, including Michaels. Vader defeated Savio Vega, on the following Raw before assaulting WWF officials, and eventually WWF President Gorilla Monsoon demanded that Vader cease his attacks, but he received a Vader bomb for his effort. As a result, Vader was suspended for his actions, though in reality he needed time off for shoulder surgery. He came back in Your House, Rage in a Cage, and attacked Yokozuna during his match with British Bulldog. Vader basically bullied his way to the main event at SummerSlam, where he was supposed to beat Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship. Insider information right here, huh? Vader was supposed to beat Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship. Wow. 96 would have been a freaking year, man. Imagine that. And then you have NWO running Rampant and on WCW. But, you know, Shawn Michaels will get the rematch at Survivor Series. But Shawn put a stop to all that. He didn't want to deal with Vader again. So he vetoed the whole thing and asked for Sid to beat him at Survivor Series instead because he was light on the punches. So basically, Shawn Michaels couldn't handle Vader. uh, what a letdown. He couldn't handle Vader, and then he asked for someone lighter. Well, you know, it happens. The Bodydonnas, Skip and Zip defeated the Goodwins. The Goodwins? The Godwins. The Good. Why am I saying the Good? I'm still thinking about Right to Censor, um, Godfather, Good Father. Whenever something like that happens, I just say good. Yeah, it's a thing. The Body Donna, Skip, and Zip defeated the Godwins for the tag team championship. A 7 minutes and 17 seconds. Geez, so short match. The Godwins, made up of Henry Godwin and Phoenix Godwin, managed by Hillbilly Jim. The Body Donnas, Skip, and Zip, managed by Sonny. The action was back and forth until Sonny went to the locker room and returned to ringside with a framed autographed portrait of herself and gave it to Phoenix, who believed that Sonny genuinely liked him. Oh, this poor soul. Meanwhile, Henry performed the slop drop on Skip and then attempted to get Phoenix away from Sonny. This led the referee to being distracted with the situation and allowing Zip to enter the ring, rolling Skip out and pretending to be him. Henry turned his attention back to who he thought was a knocked up Skip when Zip rolled into a small package for the pinfall to retain the championship. Because Skip and Zip's appearance were similar and sometimes hard to tell apart from a rear view, the referee did not realize the illegal man made the pin. That's a lie. Skip was skinnier, Zip was not. Skip was Chris Candido, Zip was Bruce Pritchard. Short match. I was okay with it, but I just hated how it ended. Phoenix is a sip for Sunny. We all know that. Is that what the word means? Can Phoenix be referred as a simp for Sunny according to the storyline? Right? Okay. The Godwins and the Body Donnas made it to the finals for the vacant tag team titles and faced each other at WrestleMania 12. Body Donnas won that match. They would feud with each other for the tag titles for the next few months. Godwins finally got to win those tag bouts in May. In her quest to remain with the gold, Sunny drew up a contract and had Phoenix sign it, which would make her a manager of the Godwins. She reveals this at the Beware of Dog Free for All hours before the power shuts down. That night, they had a match against the Smoking Guns. Sunny trying to be Sunny and distract Billy Gunn with her assets. Yeah, that Billy Gunn. Daddy ass. Scissor. He instead grabs her and plants a kiss on her while Phoenix is distracted and hurt by this. Bart Gunn rolls up Phoenix and wins the tag bouts. Later, it is found out that the contract Sunny wrote is that she goes with tag titles just in case her other team, the Body Donnas, were to beat the Godwins. She just didn't count on the Smoking Guns to win. Oh, goodness. Godwins will remain in the mid card for the remainder of the year until April of '97 when Henry Godwin suffered a cracked C7 vertebrae when the Legion of Doom botched a Doomsday Device finisher. That is when I don't know who goes on top, but one of them picks up who was it? Henry Godwin picked him up over his shoulders. The other one goes to the top rope and does a clothesline on Henry Godwin. Henry Godwin just happened to fall. Oh man, that's a horrible sight already. A C7 vertebrae. Poor guy. Due to Sunny defecting to manage tag team champions only, the Body Donnas, Skip, and Zip announced that they were searching for a new manager. They appeared on WWF television programs urging fans to apply for the position. This storyline culminated in the Body Donnas hiring Cloudy, who was Candido's friend and wrestler Jimmy Shoulders, or James Haney. I don't know who that was. I never heard of him or never seen him. Dressed as a woman. In September of '96, Skip was injured and the Body Donnas disbanded. Skip was shortly released while he was injured. He went to ECW and WCW where he met the height of his career and reunited with Sunny. Oh boy. Sunny continued to manage the Smoking Guns until September when they lost to Owen Hart and British Bulldog at In Your House Mind Games. Sonny, infuriated with the loss, fired the smoking guns on the spot. Um, Sonny then began acting as host for several WWF television shows, including Livewire and Shotgun Saturday Night. You know, sunny days and all. In the final match to air live on pay-per-view, Diesel challenged WWF champion Shawn Michaels in the holds barred match, and is the reason why the whole show is called Best Friends, Better Enemies. Other than that, nobody is a best friend or enemy. It's just a one-time thing. We don't get best friends, better enemies back again. Whatever. Um, During Diesel's entrance, Maurice Mad Dog Vachon, who lived in Omaha, was shown at ringside in the audience. Yeah. Sure, why not? The match began with Michaels entering the ring quickly, ducked a clothesline from Diesel, and nailed him with multiple right and left hands to the chin until Diesel connected hard with a high knee to his chest. Michaels recovered and knocked Diesel outside the ring and performed a moonsault from the top rope to Diesel while still out of the ring. Shawn then snatched a boot off of the Spanish commentator Hugo Savinovich, climbed the top rope, and hit Diesel in the head with it. Diesel soon got the upper hand by knocking Shawn into the steel ring side barricade. Diesel controlled the match for several minutes before turning the match up a notch by taking the belt off of the pants of referee Earl Hebner and choked Michaels with it. His next weapon of choice was a steel chair. Diesel continued his assault on Michaels when he powerbombed him through a ringside announcer's table. Back and forth action started after Michaels managed to grab a fire extinguisher and sprayed Diesel in the face. Diesel eventually turned his sight to Vachon. He grabbed Vachon out of his chair and threw him to the floor. He then pulled off Vachon's artificial leg and attempted to hit Michaels with it, but was hit with a low blow, which allowed Michaels to grab the leg and nail Diesel with it. This set up sweet chin music, and Michaels pinned Diesel to retain the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. The match was only 17 minutes and 53 seconds long. It it was it was a banger to me. It was. I mean, should it get the banger audio? Not exactly, but it's okay. These two are best friends. It's the aftermath of this that happened on May 19th that changed everything. It didn't ruin any perception of what I thought. It just changed the business, so to speak. I enjoyed this match. I was it was just a match. Uh, the pre-match promo that Diesel had something for Vince. Oh yeah, I got something for him. I don't think it was a powerbomb on the table. It might have been that Vince didn't know Diesel was going to take Mad Dog Vachon's artificial leg. By the look of that match, he didn't care anymore. He went in to cause chaos and destroy everything before he left. He even beat up Hebner and took his belt and all that shit. Like, um, well, yeah, okay. uh, he had an awesome match and basically told Vince, F you, you could have had more of this type of stuff, but you chose not to resign me. Shawn Michaels' only highlight of the year was WrestleMania 12 when he defeated Bret Hart in the 1 hour Iron Man match for the WWF Championship. Every pay per view after wasn't as memorable. It wasn't. Except for In Your House Mind Games when he faced Mankind. He lost the WWF Championship at Survivor Series when he faced Psycho Sid, who hit Shawn's manager with a video camera. Going back to the whole thing with Vader and how he was supposed to win, and then Shawn would get the belt back at Survivor Series. Instead, we get this, which eventually ended up being okay. Psycho Sid hit Shawn's manager with a video camera. HBK would win the championship back at the Royal Rumble in '97. On the special episode of Raw, Raw Thursday, Michaels vacated the WWF Championship. So here's the thing: he wins the belt at the Royal Rumble, and then he vacates it, and it was whatever. He explained to fans that he was informed by doctors that he had conjured a knee injury and that he had to retire. One of his retirements, of course, he lost his smile again. His speech was regarded as controversial as Michaels was allegedly unwilling to lose to Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, since it was noted that he was going to have a rematch with Hart at WrestleMania. Michaels contemplated thoughts of retirement and stated that he had to find his smile again, which he had lost somewhere down the line. Oh, there. You know what? I thought he had done that promo the year before. I didn't realize he did it here. Okay. Oh, yeah, he got beat up by Marines the year before in '95. So in '95 he gets beat up by Marines, and then he has a match against Owen Hart, and they do this whole concussion thing, not okay anymore. It wouldn't flag this around this time anymore. But he did this whole concussion thing. He went on to win the Rumble, and he went on to do this. So yeah, find his smile. Cool. The And so we could have had basically if why beat Sid at Survivor Series? He could basically Sid could have been champion until WrestleMania when he lost to the Undertaker. That's what it should have been, right? Because that's what happened that night. Sid, Psycho Sid versus the Undertaker. The Undertaker was a WWF champion at the time, so a WrestleMania Tier 13 would have been very different. The other three matches on the card, the dark matches after the pay per view was over, any of these matches could have replaced the horribleness that was Ultimate Warrior versus Goldust. They were Savio Vega defeating Steve Austin, at 10 minutes and 38 seconds. It was held at Beware of Dog twice. The first time in the actual dark due to the electrical storm, and the second time 2 days later, which resulted in Million Dollar Man leaving the WWF and showing up at WCW later in the year, joining the NWO. The next match was Triple H defeating Mark Merrill at 14 minutes and 10 seconds. Mark Merrill had the honor of having two matches in one night. And then you had The Undertaker defeating Mankind at 13 minutes and 24 seconds. Any of these matches could have replaced Ultimate Warrior. And why is Ultimate Warrior in the card and not The Undertaker or Mankind? This was horrible. Wow, horrible booking. So let me give you my final review before I continue. Obviously, I would have recorded this whole show, but I'm keeping the video. I'm not. No. I would have told everybody not to record it. I didn't. I watched it, but it was just like, eh. I would only tell my friends the next day how the main event went. The only match I wasn't vibing with was the IC Championship, which again wasn't even a match and should have been discarded. After that, I would probably record over the whole pay per view with Monday Night Raw replays because why not? I used to do that all the time. Record over the whole pay per view that I was already watching. We used to do that all the time. Sure, why not? It'd be the wrestling tape, like just in case. Or if the pay per view was a banger, keep the tape. Go buy another tape, a blank tape. Put Here's a hack. What 30 years later? Here's a hack. Um, put some tape over the there's a little spot in there. You can put some tape on there and you can record longer and have it be turn the settings to EP instead of SP and you'll record longer. I had an 8 hour tape, maybe 8, 9, 10 hour tape. I had a 10 hour tape in there, video cassette, whatever you call it. Yeah, and it was like three pay per views, two Raws, It was amazing. I loved it. It was one of those tapes where I didn't even, you know what? I used to record um, superstars when two actual wrestlers would compete, not just the jobbers, but the actual matches. I'd have the Ludwig Borga versus Tatanka match there, but instead now where you like have to record the entire thing and all that shit. No, stop the tape, record that match, and that's it. Move along. I'd have about 200 matches on a tape, I believe. And that's how we all went along. Like, dude, you gotta watch this match. You gotta watch this match. Take it to school, and that's the tape distribution. We're gonna do an episode. It's coming. It's coming. Um, Michael, of course, you're gonna be in it. Gonna get some people on there as well. Some old school people. You'll know who they are. You guys will know soon. Hey guys, this is Ernie. We're gonna get to the next segment in a few, but let me tell you about Dark Fate Creations. Okay? Dark Fate Creations would like to invite you to a new and unique experience in candles and wax melts. They hand pour and create every single product using quality, clean, and safe ingredients. Their candles are filled with romantic wooden wicks and made with a coconut soy blend of waxes for a safer, cleaner, and longer burn. The designs are unique and beautiful, but more importantly, they smell absolutely amazing. And the variety of fragrances have something for everyone. Hand poured in Grass Valley, California. Check them out at darkfatecreations.com. Link of the site in the show notes below.
Movies and feelings. Pop, pop. Bring Your Own Popcorn is a podcast that dives into people and the movies who love them. Let us preach to your choir or stoke your ire as we spiral down memory lane with cult classics, Jurassics, and other genres that rhyme with traffic. What we lack in education, we make up for with comedy, compassion, and camaraderie. I'm your host, Mixtape Majesty, inviting you to join me and an assortment of wonderful guests on fine podcast apps everywhere. Bring your own popcorn.
May 19th has become synonymous with Cain and See No Evil. Obviously, we talked about it on here. The May 19th episode and the Halloween episode. Another reason for this date is the infamous curtain call. For the unaware, let me tell you this story first. The Kliq was a backstage group in the World Wrestling Federation during the mid 90s composed of Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Sean Waltman, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. Michaels, Nash, and Hall wielded a considerable amount of power within the company at the time, which they reportedly used to positively influence one another's careers and occasionally negatively influence the careers of others. In May 1996, the Kliq broke character at a live event at Madison Square Garden, an unscripted incident referred to as the curtain call, which had far-reaching ramifications for the WWF specifically and the whole wrestling world as a whole. At a time when professional wrestling organizations worked to maintain the illusion of storyline and characters, the curtain call marked the first time that such high-profile performers had so publicly broken character, forcing the WWF and other wrestling organizations to begin acknowledging the scripted elements of their program. They fucked up. The Kliq was formed in '94 by real life friends Scott Hall, then known as Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash, Diesel, Michael Hickenbottom, who's Shawn Michaels, and Sean Waltman, who was known as the 123 Kid at the time. He goes on to change his name in every company he's in. In WCW, he was Six, and then back in WWE as X-Pac. In January of 95, Paul Levesque left WWE and arrived in the WWF as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, of course, and became next member of the Kliq. Each man enjoyed a tremendous amount of popularity with fans, which allotted them a particular degree of control over their own careers. Nash, Hall, and Michaels, then among the company's most popular performers, came up with the idea of forming a backstage alliance, which potentially allowed them to consolidate even more power within the company. Bret Hart, another of the company's top performers at the time, claims in his autobiography, Hitman, that he was also asked if he wanted to be part of the Kliq, but declined the offer. He says, the thing I remember most about that tour was Shawn, Razor, and Nash talking to me in Hamburg about the idea of forming a clique of top guys who strictly took care of their own. Levesque mentioned on the 2013 Triple H Thy Kingdom Come DVD that he was recruited to the Kliq by Kevin Nash because he didn't do drugs or alcohol and thus could serve as the group's designated driver after events. Can you imagine that if Bret Hart had joined the Kliq? Um, he wouldn't be. He there would have been no screw job. They would have taken care of him. Obviously, Shawn Michaels wouldn't have been doing any of the screwing either. Uh, of course, if he had joined the, let me just put it this way: if he had joined the Kliq, Bret Hart wouldn't have suffered a concussion by Goldberg. I had to. Michaels claims that the name the Kliq was originally coined by Lex Luger due to the closeness of the five friends backstage, while Lex Luger has suggested that David Boy Smith created the name because the five kept clicking, referring to how often they talked. At the suggestion of Vince Russo, Michaels began referring to his fans as his Kliq. Michaels wrote in his 2006 autobiography that he disliked the idea and that it was not a huge hit with the fans. Eh, yeah, I can see it. Vince Russo and bad ideas. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that happened. That sucks, bro. In 95, the men's growing popularity as performers led to the group developing a huge, heavy influence on booking. The power to schedule matches and decide match outcomes, write storylines, and largely determine the trajectory of other performers' careers. The group used this power to give one another preferential treatment, usually scheduling each other in heavily promoted high profile matches, often against one another. During the period of 94 through 96, particularly, Ramon had high profile feuds with 123 Kid, Diesel, and Michaels, while Diesel and Michaels formed a championship winning tag team called Two Dudes with Attitude. The group's perceived abuse of power led to animosity among other wrestlers, particularly lower ranking members of the company. In one instance, performer Carl Ouellet, then performing as John Pierre Lafitte, claimed that his scheduled defeat of Diesel was vetoed by Michaels, leading to a backstage confrontation between Ouellet and Michaels. The match between the two ended in a double countout because Lafitte refused to be pinned by Nash. In retaliation, the group effectively ended Ouellet's career with the company by scheduling him to repeatedly lose low-profile matches. In his autobiography, Michaels admitted that we buried him, of course. Lafitte left the company soon after the incident. Contrary to rumors, Michaels says that WWF chairman Vince McMahon did not fire Lafitte. Another thing which was done back in 95 in the whole, what's it called? Um, thing with Shawn Michaels and all that stuff. Back in 95, after the whole beatdown by the Marines, Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental Champion. He was supposed to face Shane Douglas in a match. I forgot where. Probably at a in your house. Um, and instead he came out with the belt, handed over to Shane Douglas, and Shane Douglas wins the championship, the IC championship for one night. He still has a match though, and it becomes obvious that who his Kliq partner, Razor Ramon, when he faced Shane Douglas for the IC championship, they basically didn't like Shane Douglas at all backstage. He tried to be cool and everything, but he was trying. According to rumors, he was trying too hard, and so the Kliq decided gonna get you're gonna be a jobber for us, and that's how Shane Douglas came and went. In April of 1996, Nash and Hall signed contracts with WW, the WWF's top competitor, with whom the company was embroiled in a bitter rivalry. Accounts have differed as to what led to the men's departure. Wrestling commentators have speculated that their contracts were allowed to expire in order to cripple the Kliq's influence in the company, while official WWE media asserts that Nash and Hall were simply offered more money by WCW than the WWF was able to promise them at the time. Hall himself claims he left because he felt his pay in the WWF had plateaued, while Nash has stated he left because WWE offered a guaranteed contract, something the WWF had been unwilling to do for any wrestler at that point. Nash and Hall's last contracted match for the WWF took place on May 19th, 1996 at Madison Square Garden. The curtain call. We all know that day. So, May 19th, another reason for you guys to celebrate. At the time, Levisk and Nash were wrestling as villains, while Michaels and Hall were fan favorites. At the end of the night, Michaels wrestled Nash in a steel cage match. Immediately after the match, Hall entered the ring and hugged Michaels. This was not seen as unusual in story, as both wrestlers were fan favorites. However, Levisk then entered the ring and hugged Hall, followed by Nash. The four wrestlers then group hugged for several seconds before they turned to face the crowd with their arms raised together. Waltman, who himself would leave for WCW shortly after the incident, was in drug rehab at the time and thus didn't participate. Triple H was the sole member of the Kliq punished for the curtain call. Oh, he jobbed. He jobbed hard. They made his life miserable. Yeah. So their actions, dubbed the curtain call, scandalized WWF management. At the time, most major wrestling promotions, the WWF included, prided themselves on maintaining kayfabe, the illusion that all the events which transpired in ring were real and unscripted, and that wrestlers' on-screen rivalries extended outside of the ring. The company had a strict policy of on-screen rivals not breaking character by associating with one another on WWF programming, as a means of maintaining storylines and feuds between wrestlers. It well, you know, uh, two people almost fucked that one up. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik when they were pulled over by a cop back then. Yeah, just imagine being the cop and seeing the Iron Sheik hanging out with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That is a story that I want to be able to hear. WWF Chairman Vince McMahon was reported to have initially given his tacit approval for a farewell ceremony, but did not realize they would become so elaborate. The severity of the incident was further compounded by the revelation that the event, which was not broadcast on television, had been filmed by two fans who had smuggled a camcorder past security. Stills from the footage were widely disseminated online and in wrestling magazines at the time, bringing the curtain call to a wider audience than if it had not been recorded. Uh, I heard stories about that. I don't know who started that. Who started that rumor in high school that all four of them did that, and that's why we're all like, "No way, they're best friends." So now, you know, wrestling is the F word. I'm not gonna say it, but somebody like I know somebody started that in high school. I heard it in high school from a friend who probably heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend. That's how it was. That's how it was started back then. Uh High school guys, if you heard it also, let me know how you heard it because I want to know if even in high school, even if you heard this rumor that when it happened, how did you hear it? When did you hear it? We yeah, because that was crazy. Um, Hall and Nash had already confirmed their departure for WCW, and because Waltman was never there to begin with, the three of them escaped punishment. Michaels, who was the WWF champion at the time and one of the promotion's biggest drawing performers, could not be punished. Okay, sure. The punishment fell solely on Levisk, Triple H, who was demoted from being a championship contender to wrestling inexperienced or lesser inexperienced wrestlers for the next several months. I'm gonna have to go watch those matches to see who he fought, who he got embarrassed by. He did, however, win the WWF Intercontinental Championship 5 months later. Levisk, in questioning acceptance of his punishment, had the unintended side effects of rehabilitating his image in the eyes of other performers who held a grudge against him for his time with the Kliq. According to The Undertaker in the Triple H The Game DVD, when Levisk first arrived in the WWF, he was perceived as being arrogant and self-centered, but by accepting his punishment, he earned legitimate respect. The incident turned out to have a major impact on the WWF future, obviously. For the first time in modern pro wrestling history, a major company was forced to acknowledge that its events were scripted. McMahon would later use this to his advantage in the development of several meta storylines, including a skit on the October 6, 1997 episode of Raw is War, in which Michaels and Levisk, both in character, played footage of the curtain call incident. Before the curtain call, Levisk had been booked into the finals of the 1996 King of the Ring tournament during the following summer, but his place and the push that usually went with it would instead go to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Y'all heard him earlier. Igniting his rise towards superstardom, an event which ultimately helped the WWF defeat WCW in the Monday Night Wars. Levi's acceptance of his punishment and the respect it earned him resulted in him only suffering short-term repercussions. He would go on to win the following year's King of the Ring tournament and later went on to become a 14-time world champion, beginning with his WWF Championship victory over Mankind the night after SummerSlam in 1999. When Hall and Nash went to WCW, they formed a tag team, The Outsiders, as well as the New World Order NWO stable alongside Hulk Hogan. Rather than see the breaking of kayfabe as a crisis moment for professional wrestling, WCW decided to exploit it by introducing their own meta storyline that incorporated fans' growing awareness of the backstage politics of pro wrestling. Upon Nash and Hall's arrival, they were implied to still be working for the WWF, staging an invasion of WCW. That's when I knew. When Wolfman later jumped to WCW, he also joined the NWO as Six, often working closely with the Outsiders and forming the trio known as the Wolfpack. Many fans criticized Kevin Nash for his booking tenure in WCW since it displayed the same self-promoting behavior associated with the Kliq on an even larger scale. Fans often pointed to Nash booking himself to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship from the then undefeated Goldberg and the subsequent match with Hogan as the most grievous of his offenses. Oh, the finger point of doom? Yeah, that's going to put a lot of butts in their seats. Nash, however, claims that he did not have booking power at the time of the incident. Nash's innocence claim is disputed in several shoot interviews by various WCW wrestlers from the time who claimed that he, Hogan, and several others often refused to put other wrestlers over in order to keep themselves as the main stars. So, let's see. So, Hall, last day in the company is May 19th. May 27th, 1996, he shows up on WCW appearing from the crowd in street clothes and claim to be an outsider. He even does his whole Razor Ramon gimmick, like "Hey Chico" and all that stuff. Um, where was freshman to sophomore that year. Um, we talked about it at school. We said, "Did you see that Razor Ramon showed up in WCW?" Oh shit, that's awesome. Summer school. We would go to summer school because, there was nothing to do in summer. Everybody was at school. So by summer school, June 10th, Kevin Nash joined up, and that's when they told Eric Bischoff is a hostile takeover of WCW and all that. So later on, we're just like, wow, did you see? Like, we were kids, man. We didn't know this. We were just kids. At what was it? Bash at the Beach. When was that? July 7th. Yes, July 7th. Hall and Nash faced Lex Luger, Randy Savage, and Sting. And Hall and Nash's third man, obviously, is going to be Hulk Hogan. He comes out, New World Order, bam, all that stuff. Um, so like 2 weeks later, I think, because the school has a freaking break because of July 4th and all that stuff. So it'd be like a week later at least. Or did I go twice for a full 2 semesters? I don't remember. We were all at school because we were all at school. I was trying to graduate early, trying to get more credits, but we all went to school. We all said it's like, oh wow, we were all into it. Like I didn't record it at the time. I started recording, doing tape distribution in '97 because I wasn't watching '97. I I don't know why. I just stopped watching for like a little while, and you can hear it on the Attitude Era Wrestling Review podcast where I say that I wasn't aware of what was going on because school stuff. So so at the time they recorded the matches and everything for me. I would go home and watch them, and then I do that for them for the pay-per-views, all that stuff. It went on till 1999, all that, because I didn't have cable at the time. It's like I would go to a friend's house and watch the pay-per-views, and we would order them. I would take my VCR because they didn't have a VCR. Yeah, that's how crazy it was back then. So basically, that's how it was. So yeah, we're gonna have a whole. I keep talking about it. We're gonna have an episode about that pretty soon. I gotta think about what I'm gonna say for that one. Thank you for listening to the show and supporting us. You can find us on other sort of social platforms at our Linktree, linktree.com/, from Under the Apron. It has the link to our network, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all our socials, plus our Good Pods, Spotify, and iTunes account, where you can listen to us as well as leave us comments or a 5-star review, which definitely helps us be discovered by other fans of wrestling or wrestling podcast or fans of podcast. It's an awesome network. Check out the show notes for links to other podcast trailers that you heard on this episode. Send us a message of your favorite wrestling stories, questions, comments, ratings, or requests by email. It is from undertheapron@gmail.com, and I will do my best to get to them and answer accordingly. Also, click on the link tree if you want to support our podcast. So far, we have a few supporters, and I'm making it a habit for those few supporters to know any updates I make with the podcast or new episodes. They're kind of like our VIP wrestling geeks. They get the over-the-guardrail treatment, if you will. They immediately know when our shows are posted or when we plan on recording. Thank you for listening and being a huge part of our community. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to share Turkish Mafia 2 Sweet with your friends. And tell me what you're doing on Thanksgiving. Yeah? No? Okay. Join us next time and find out what kind of stories are swept under the apron. I'm Ernie. You're awesome. Bye.